Hey everyone, and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. I am Justin, the butcher slash mailman.
I'm Dan, a sailor.
And I'm Nico, and who I am is none ya business.
Oh.
If I could just pipe in some booze for that, that'd be great. No, but today we're going to be reviewing Dark Waters. No, not the one with sharks. No, not the one about a pharmaceutical corporation.
There's a surprising amount of movies with this name, I gotta
There
say.
are quite a few movies with this name. We're talking about the horror from back in 1993. That's right, directed by Mariano Baino. We've got Louise Salter as Elizabeth, Venera Simmons as Sarah. And we don't really have any other name characters in this. That's about
mostly
it.
Yeah.
So we open up the movie with a nun. Now she's holding like an eldritch symbol. You know, it's got like all kind of like a face and above a cliff. Now she's shoved, right, Dan? She's shoved.
Yeah, some unknown
booper.
entity comes up and bops her on the back and
Yeah, hits her a little boop. So yeah, so we'll get to that in a second though, as far as who that could have been maybe. But she shoved off and the symbol she's holding is smashed upon the rocks because she was on top of a cliff right next to the ocean. And her fellow nuns, because they're at a nunnery,
Monastery.
AKA a convent, AKA a monastery, there are no dudes there. There was in the intro, but never again in the movie, in the actual convent.
You know, you're right.
So the nuns literally hide the symbols, right? And we're like, oh shit, what happened? So fast forward 20 years and we get our protagonist, Elizabeth. Now her friend, Teresa, writes to her asking her to come through to this island. Additionally, there's also a little bit of a side plot where Teresa doesn't own the island, but her father, who just recently died, had been making payments to the island, you know, providing them with financial support.
Not Teresa,
Elizabeth had. And, you know, she wanted to check up on basically her investment, see why they're even doing that. However, she never meets up with her friend Teresa. And why is that, Nico?
So after that time cut, 20 years later, we quickly see a scene where these nuns are taking care of business, and they plain and simple take Teresa out of the picture because she saw something that she shouldn't have. So Elizabeth herself was not privy to the need to know business of whatever ritual was going on. And so she makes her way to the island during a super violent storm, and she tries to make it as smooth of a process as possible. And during one of what I thought was one of the funnier scenes in the movie in the beginning, she goes and finds this scurrilous old sailor, and she's like, I need to get to the convent tonight. Here's $10. Like, I don't think I would cross the fucking ocean for $10. But anyway, she does make it there successfully, and while she's on the boat, she sees the figure of a man who, again, we don't have a name for, just literally grubbing down on some raw fish, and he is given the qualifier of he keeps the other crazies at bay from the captain. So she eventually arrives at the island, and everything goes fine, really.
If only. So she does get to the island, she meets the nuns, and she meets up with her friend, and I think pretty much the only other named character in the movie, Sarah. So Sarah and her, they kind of, you know, explore around the monastery a little bit. And one thing they do happen to find is a really old library. Now, Dan, what do they find in this library?
So Elizabeth finds this book and reads in this book that there's like this eldritch being, beast thing. I think they call it, like, refer to it as like a beast of sorrow. And anybody who looks upon it is blinded by just the sheer monstrosity that it is, I guess. So she learns about that a little bit, and kind of that there's an amulet that summons it, and yeah.
So the plot, I do have to say up front, it's not one of those movies that kind of just, you know, hands you the plot. You really do have to pay quite a bit of attention to grasp this shit. So all this is happening, and Elizabeth, she sees, I guess, her friend Teresa's body being carried by the nuns. And she also is attacked by one or two of them. And so now she's freaking out, and she realizes that she has to get back to the mainland. So she explores a little more of the island outside of the convent. And it's basically revealed by a woman who is kind of like a grandmother-esque / caretaker figure, because her mother supposedly died giving birth to her. I guess it turns out that, well, her mother is in actuality the beast of sorrow. Her father basically had relations with an eldritch being, and as a result of that union, had her and another girl, actually. So it's then revealed that Sarah, who, was at first just like an ordinary nun, is actually her sister. Now, Dan, what happens after that?
So this is where things start to get real serious. And Elizabeth sort of falls under the influence of her mother, who's the eldritch beast, and her sister. And we kind of find out that Sarah, the sister, is trying to revive the eldritch being because the eldritch being is their mother. And in order to do that, they need to gather these pieces of this amulet and sort of reassemble it. So Elizabeth kind of falls under the influence of the mother and sister and sort of the person that she was, quote unquote, sort of like meant to be. So she ends up killing a nun and eats her flesh. And
Like
blood,
you do.
Yeah, and blood spills on the pieces of the amulet that are kind of gathered there, and that kind of somehow makes them whole again, I guess. And then the beast is getting summoned, and just before the beast is fully summoned, Elizabeth kind of comes to, regains her humanity, and ends up smashing the amulet and basically stopping the eldritch being from being summoned and trapping it once more.
Indeed. And we're closed now because unfortunately there is a little bit of blowback from doing such a, I don't know if I call it heroic because she did summon the shit in the first place, but we see Elizabeth donning a nun's garb and she is now blinded, right, Dan? Her eyes are all whited out and stuff. And she's holding and wearing a piece of that amulet/medallion around her neck. And that's where the movie closes. And it's basically implied that she's now basically going to stay there as penance because she knows what she is. And she knows that if, anyone ever manages to collect these pieces, that the being could be summoned once more. So she's going to stop that from happening if she can. But let's go ahead now and shake loose to the visuals and audio. So we're going to go ahead and start with the visuals here. Now, again, this movie did come out in 1993. It's quite a while ago. One could even say it was 27 years ago.
You could say that, yeah.
I guess you could.
You could say it came out 57 years ago. You'd be wrong, but you could say that.
You could say that. But speaking of could say, Nico, what could you say about the visuals?
So, this is something that I did look up briefly when I had started the movie, and cards on the table here, I do not remember where I saw this from, but I was reading up that they were trying to get a sort of 70s aesthetic during the filming process in the cinematography, and I think they definitely, they succeeded insofar as it looks older than a movie that was released in 93 should look. And I think that I feel like that was intentional, but it still kind of struck me as weird. Like, honestly, I wasn't a huge fan of the visuals in general, but they did serve the purpose of accomplishing the sort of like retro feel for sure.
Yeah, I definitely think it does kind of have a retro-y kind of feel. That's interesting. I didn't see that. That's kind of cool. But I kind of like the visuals personally. It's not like super high quality or anything like that by any means, but two parts that kind of jumped out to me. One, you don't really see a lot of violence in this one. A lot of the pieces, kind of cut away or something. But a lot of times when somebody dies, there's a lot of water in this movie, as the title kind of implies. So a lot of times when somebody dies, the water turns red and kind of like waterfalls or trickles over like statues or something like that. I don't know. I thought that was kind of cool. It's a weird sort of quirk, but I kind of liked it. And then there was one other scene that I thought visually was cool where Elizabeth is having a dream and there's like a nun hanging up on a cross and the cross is kind of floating towards her. And the camera perspective is from sort of the top right shoulder of the cross, not of Elizabeth, but of the cross. And there's like light emanating from the cross, so we're looking at Elizabeth and we can see the light sort of flashing and flickering from there, and this cross is slowly getting closer to her. It was different, and I actually kind of liked that scene. So overall for me, I actually kind of liked the visuals. They had a certain charm to them, in my opinion.
Agreed. I also thought the visuals held water. And I thought that, the gore was intelligently used. when it was there, the effect was almost magnified because it wasn't necessarily a gore-filled splatterfest. And I also thought, that I did appreciate a lot of the camera work. I thought that, and just in general, the lighting too, right? I thought it was appropriate. Like, not the entire movie was not cast in like some kind of, immediate darkness. Like, the beginning was super stormy. And then there was a part where Elizabeth was getting answers and it was actually bright outside. Mm-hmm. It was almost like a moment of reflection, a moment of peace. And then, we just devolved back down into it again. And I thought I liked it. I thought that was cool. So now let's go ahead and put on our headphones and talk about the audio. Dan, what'd you think about the audio? I know there's a lot to say. So
this was probably my biggest knock on the movie. The audio was pretty bad. Everything was just like too loud and just distorting and just not good. Even within that, some of the Foley and the extra sound effects that they added were too loud or too much. And like there was one point I remember where Elizabeth puts out a candle with her fingers. So, you would expect to hear like a kind of sound when she does that, but it was like, and I was like, Jesus, candle doesn't make that kind of sound. Like, relax. And just things like that throughout that really kind of took me out of it. But the music, I actually liked the music quite a bit. The score was pretty cool.
I couldn't fucking stand it.
Oh, really?
I'm glad you liked it.
There was some interesting like orchestral stuff involved, and then some like weird ambient droney kind of electric distorted guitar kind of things. That was pretty cool. I feel like if the audio just in general quality in general was better, I feel like I would have liked the music even better. It's anything audio in this film was hard to really enjoy and get into because it was just too much. It was distorted and everything.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. That definitely makes sense. As far as I go, I would say that, the audio, first off, I agree with all the distortions. I think within the immediate, and it's kind of sad in a way, but I think the sound is worst in the first 15 minutes. I think that's when you see like the worst parts. There's actually a part where someone is jamming out on the fucking like keyboard and it distorts loud as fuck. It distorts. Like they're in a cave. I know the exact scene. And I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, come on, man. That's like rookie moves. But aside from that, I do agree with you, Dan. I was a fan of the score once the movie kind of kept going. And I did enjoy, some of the things they had to offer. I don't know. I thought it was all right. Nico, I know you got some thoughts on it. How'd you feel about the audio?
Oh, man. Similar to Dan, this was my biggest issue. It was just distracting levels of, the levels. The levels were distracting. Like, there was just so much that was out of place. There was clipping that made it literally just hard to follow. And I understand how someone could appreciate and enjoy the music in it. I just thought that it was way too much like someone got a bunch of angry vuvuzela and accordion players, put them in a room, and then like made them watch a fucking like war crimes documentary. It just sounded fucking bad.
I agree. There's one or two parts that I didn't like in the score, but I think some of it was kind of cool.
Just one last point that I will say, something that the movie has more often than I think I realized was there was like canned audio of either small children or infants crying. And when it was mostly during the second half of the film, but one of the times during the crying session, I guess, I could hear the actor just like breathing and exhaling on the mic. And I think that was just a little bit indicative of most of the attention that went into the audio here. Like they needed to do a lot.
Okay. So maybe the audio wasn't the best, but now let's go ahead and focus our sights here, our analytical gear, so to speak.
Ooh.
What genre of horror is this? Where does this fall? I'll go ahead and lead with you, Dan. You seem like you know what you're talking about.
Thanks. I put this in cosmic horror.
Okay.
We've got the eldritch being that as soon as you look upon it, it's so incomprehensible, whatever the word
Sorrowful.
is. Sure, it's so sad that it just immediately blinds you. And I think that's a staple in that kind of genre. It's just something so mind-blowingly uncomprehensible,
Unknowable.
unknowable. That's a good way to say it. That we just can't fathom it. And then, it's just the eldritch being and the sort of amulet, the symbol that you have to kind of put together, like eldritch signs and things like that. So I think it's definitely a cosmic horror.
I'm just going to say this one quote. Even when you're blind, right? Like, it's just fucking crazy. For those who are blind.
That's the quote. Yeah.
Well, no, listen.
That's crazy.
For those who are
Even
blind.
when you're blind, it's fucking crazy, man.
Shall see the true face of the beast and forever suffer it in their soul. If that is not a reference to like cosmic horror, then I don't know what is.
Definitely.
I can
that
think of
is-
someone who might have something to say about that,
Oh,
actually.
who?
That's blatant. Go ahead.
Fred Nietzsche might have something to say
Yeah?
about
Oh,
that.
yeah?
Oh,
Yeah.
what do you
Get
have
our
to say?
pal,
Yeah, I'm
pal
pretty
back in
sure-
here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he said something like, it's wild, right? When you're dreaming that like when you look into the abyss, sometimes it like it stares back at you. It gives you the red notification.
That's crazy.
It's how that went, right? It's how that goes.
Yep.
So, but as far as the genre goes, what do you think?
I see, like, I honestly didn't really even contextualize this within horror until the second half. It seemed more like a drama than anything else at the beginning. Like, yeah, we have the scene of Teresa getting yeeted to death, but it's not exactly like there were... It seemed almost to be more of a genuine, like, investigation or a mystery more than the, like... spooky bits were concerned. Granted, yeah, it does take that turn where suddenly her friend / sister is this freaky fucking crab looking woman. But I think that cosmic horror does work as a pretty good catch-all for this, given that it is a little bit more esoteric and a little bit more cryptic at times, given how, like, there are things that make people go mad and just kind of like lose it.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I kind of disagree a little bit with the mystery piece. I think there was a lot happening, and especially at this very start, I think there was a decent amount happening that would make me contextualize it as horror. But
That's fair.
Okay, I see you.
That's interesting too about that you said that about the beginning, because one of the problems that I have with the first half of the movie is that it's all spooky drama tension building. Like almost every single shot, in my opinion, was that. And we've talked in the past about how films build tension throughout, and some films do it too much, some films don't do it enough, some they break the tension,
Right.
Whatever. So I feel like in the first half of this film, it was just constant tension. And whether something weird, spooky was going on, like the guy eating fish, raw fish, and he's here to keep the other creepers away, and
Yum, 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 yum.
or
Are we bringing that back?
or just so many like different characters that are shrouded and put in the shadows, and you can't fully see their faces. Or once she gets to the island, she's like riding on a bus, and they see like a ritual and nuns burning crosses, and the music through a lot of this is very like makes you sit on the edge of your seat. So I just felt like the first like 45 minutes was just that. And it really kind of like, I didn't really enjoy that because there was no sort of release to it. There was no juxtaposition of, hey, there's all this tension, but wait, here's a scene without all that tension where we break that or something. And it was just constantly building. And I mean, some films can do that. If you do it correctly, I guess that's cool. But
Yeah.
I don't think this film did that. And it's actually interesting because to me, the second half of the film, I enjoyed a lot better. And that's where they did start cutting the tension a little bit. You had the scenes where, okay, she's just going, exploring the village a little bit and talking to this
Right.
person. And it might be kind of a weird person or something, but it wasn't like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Crazy synthesizer, distorted guitar, orchestral music, whatever, that to build tension. And once they started breaking the tension, I actually thought it was better after that.
I think I can agree with you a little bit there. I guess for me, and so this was a movie that, I think, first off, to get I know we've talked about it before where there are some movies that you really have to like really zone in on, because
Right.
any movie is better when you zone in on it. But I think this one in particular is one where you really, I actually, believe it or not, I realized that when I was watching it, I wasn't giving it enough attention. And so I actually like went back and rewinded back and rewatched. I think it was like a 15 or 20 minute segment that I just, I think I was getting distracted. I think, maybe someone texted me or something like that. And like,
Don't fucking at me, dude. Jeez.
nah, that actually wasn't you.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. So I would, I would have taken the opportunity to shoot you down, sir. But no, so I think when I went back and rewatched it and really gave myself to the movie, I thought that there was more there. Now, in terms of like, I do agree that in terms of pacing, there could have been a little more payoff in the first half. Now, on a very personal note, I didn't mind it so much because we were working up and up and up and up and things were developing. But you are right. There was a lot of tension, a lot of unresolved. Just, it felt like when you just clench your bicep harder and harder and harder, like you don't know what to do. Dan.
You're right.
See, here's how I think about it. It's not so much about clenching a bicep. It's more like you've got a whole bunch of pots in the kitchen. You got a lot of soup on the stove. But you're not cooking it yet. Soup's on the stove, but you're not cooking it yet. Like the first 40, 45 minutes, this does seem to be the section that we're sort of like zoning in on here, but just... I didn't talk about this so much during the visuals because I'm trying to keep my fire contained, but just the cuts and the cinematography are just so fucking bad. Like there is a scene where, and this happens, not this specific thing that happens, but the focus and the detail within the scene happens all the time. There's a part where there is not a person who is actively crucified, but just like a statue of Jesus that you might find at your neighborhood Michael's or something. I don't know. They don't fucking sell crucifixes, whatever. It looked fake. And they held this very slow scrolling shot down his body for a solid 30 seconds. And like, there's something to be said about building tension, but I don't care about looking at the exact intricacies of our porcelain Christ.
Did you see the water?
No, I saw the water. That was clear the moment they showed it, and then the 30 seconds afterwards were just a little bit unnecessary.
I don't know, bro. I'm gonna strap on my lance and joust you here. I thought the cinematography was pretty spot on. I thought for what they were doing, and especially there were so many cool shots of like the labyrinthine caves underneath the monastery and on the island and shit like that. And there were so many cool shots of the different hallways and like...
Could not disagree more, but I understand.
I mean, I understand English. I don't agree with all of the words. But...
What?
Like,
what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Fuck you, aluminum. Hydrangea? What a bitch. Chair? A chair killed my father.
So...
Anyway.
But no, like, but no, I mean, like, it's one of those things where I personally thought that I liked the cinematography, especially, I don't think they lingered that long on the statue of Christ.
Really fucking did, bro.
Well, we'll have to go back. We'll have to go back and re-examine the evidence, the Carfax, if you will.
The Carfax?
But
we got Carfax with the Carfax.
Yeah, well, guess what? I don't give a car fucks about what you say about this. Yeah,
because you don't have a car in the world.
Oh, shit.
For what I have to say.
Shit. Oh, shit.
Why don't you look at me when we make... I mean... What?
Because I'm looking at my Michael statue of Jesus Christ. But no, so... Dan, I do have to ask you this.
Yeah.
This movie has a twist. Just like Sprite, back when they had... Remember Sprite with the twist?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit. Yeah, the 90s were a thing.
Well, that's when this movie came out. Hey, wait a sec. Sprite?
No, we're not making this thread. This is not the connection we're making.
Got some explaining to do, Sprite.
You see, in the music video for, Christ, what was that one Drake song? The one that, like, put him on the map? Last name ever. First name greatest. What was that?
That was Forever. Was that really the one that put him on the map? Anyways, that was Forever you're talking about.
Yeah, like, I know y'all saw the hidden stills of Dark Waters in there being like, watch this movie. Secret conspiracy.
As Nico has alluded to earlier on at the pod, Dan, this movie has a massive twist.
Yes.
A twist and a shout like a bop it. When it's revealed that not only is Elizabeth the daughter of the beast, which we'll get to a very intricate point in just a second about
Turns
that.
out she was the bad bitch.
But her sister apparently took more after the mother, which, if I didn't know any better, seems like a pretty direct reference to the Dunwich horror. But, yeah, so how do we feel about the reveal where, we finally see Sarah for the first time and she's all, eldritched out? How'd you feel about that?
I thought it was awesome. Like when that happened, I was just like, man, this movie just went to like another level. Like they just like cranked it up. Like I was not expecting that. I mean, as far as like kind of what was happening in the plot, I don't want to say like I called it or whatever, but like I thought the movie did a good job of kind of keeping you in the dark. And then like right before something happened, like that a twist, you could be like, oh, I wonder if Sarah's related to her or I wonder if or whatever. And then it happens. But like, man, I was not expecting her to be all like scaly and boils or eldritched out, whatever. Man, they just took like the intensity level from like a 6 to like a 9 or something. I was just like, Jesus.
Nice.
And with the eldritch being behind the wall kind of thing that you could kind of peek through a hole in the wall and see, I thought that was cool. Yeah, I just think they cranked it up at the end. I loved it.
Nico, thoughts?
I mean, I thought she looked kind of crabby.
Boo.
Insert boo
How'd
song
you feel
here.
about that scene in general and the
No,
reveal?
I thought the reveal was one of the better parts of the movie. Like, it's where we see the sort of more sinister, mystic sort of aura that the film has finally given a corporeal form in the body of Sarah that's been, not necessarily corrupted, but like she's showing her true form, and the film is finally starting to show its hand a little bit. So that was definitely one of the better parts of the movie. Yeah.
Okay. For me, I mean, like, I agree with Dan 1,000-fold. Like, I fucking, like, when I was watching this part, I was like, oh shit, you know what? I did agree. I thought the movie got better as it went on. I think it started off kind of, all right, I was feeling it. And then, she was exploring the castle and there was a lot of lore that we were given. I appreciate the lore of this movie, actually, quite a bit. So, we find out that, her mother is the beast of sorrow. I really fucked with a quote that her caretaker / kind of grandmother figure said, because she was talking about her mother and she's like, my mother died, for me. And then, she says like, your mother would be dead if she'd ever been born. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh shit. There you go. And there's also a scene right before that reveal where Sarah is kind of like finding a piece of the amulet because like now's her time for her plan. And a nun comes up behind her to stab her and kill her. And I thought that, this wasn't like the stated twist, but the nuns, the whole movie, you think are the bad guys.
Right.
And then it turns out, no, they're the good guys. They're trying to stop an eldritch abomination from being spawned. And it's just like, damn. Now, side note, and this is an official DOTD talking point.
Oh.
How the fuck did her father fuck a beast of eternal sorrow?
Yeah,
How
I
did
don't
this
know.
happen?
I thought
With his
about
dick.
that, and
Next point.
Well, there's a picture of the mother, right? Like we see a picture of her. So I don't know. Maybe she took human form, or she had like some kind of, I don't know. She had some kind of like spawn or something that came out there. Did anyone else think about that?
yeah, I
Just now,
prefer
yeah,
to think
hated
it's more entertaining if the eldritch creature cannot change form.
Yeah, you just gotta watch the little flaps there and the
But
eyes.
but
It's-
the
be
father,
careful.
I guess they don't explicitly say, but I assume the father wasn't blind.
Hey, love's in the eye of the beholder, my G.
Well, how do you know he wasn't blind?
I mean, that's what I said. They never say it, but
Yeah.
I feel
mean,
like
I
they
thought he
would have
was.
said it.
I did think about that a little bit, and I thought maybe because there's a lot of blind people on the actual island itself, right? Like the Mother Superior, a bunch of the older folks, and just like I think in general there was a bunch of people who were blind in the movie, and I thought that was kind of odd because obviously they were blinded from some previous encounter. So when the ancient one surfaced 20 years ago,
Right.
I definitely thought it was interesting, and I guess he might really well be blind. Although, and this is an interesting point to note, Elizabeth had seen her mother before, or you would have to assume so, but she wasn't blind.
Right.
But I don't know if maybe she's like a little, resistant, perhaps.
Maybe when the eldritch being is in human form, it's non-blinding.
True. So now we're going to go ahead, I guess, and discuss some of our favorite moments of this one. So Nico, I'm going to let you lead out with this one.
Oh, thank God. I'm so excited. Full disclosure, I don't remember the character that was being bludgeoned to death, but there is a scene where Elizabeth is very extremely gently just rocking this body back and forth and just like gently touching him down onto the floor. And you want to think that like, oh, damn, she's beating the snot out of her. But no, it's the most like gentle, caring, caressing thing you've ever seen. And it was just completely fucking tone deaf. So that was my favorite scene.
Elizabeth is attacked by a nun and they kind of have a little fight and she manages to get her knife out the window. You know, she's trying to like do a thing where you choke someone and slam their head into the ground. And instead of being able to properly slam her head into the ground, because I guess, you know, can't hurt anyone. It was a random nun, didn't have a name, but she just kind of like blue,
it was just bad acting. Or not bad acting, into the ground. But not
well, I think it was. I think it would have been served.
It wasn't good acting.
Well, it would have been served a lot better if they did one of two things. Either option A, they could have had a different camera angle, so it would have been looking from the down up. So you could have looked into Elizabeth's eyes, and like as she was doing her down, the blood could have spurted up. That would have been a cool shot. Or if they really wanted to do it like that, they could have zoomed in on the nun's head, but from the side, because she had her head turned a little bit. And when you do a zoom in like that, you can swap something out and that you can really just go to town and really slam into it and beat up on it.
Pause.
So unpause. It's time for your favorite scene, Dan.
So my favorite scene, and we didn't really talk about this plot point, but we mentioned sort of the old lady, the caretaker, grandmother person. Elizabeth goes to talk to her and the old lady is kind of telling Elizabeth about stuff and reveals it's sort of a big plot reveal kind of moment there. And then these like other nuns run by with like a burning cross and toss it into the building and burn down the building. And as soon as they toss the cross in, Elizabeth just fucking dips. Like she is out. No trying to save this person who they kind of allude to being her grandmother. And we keep saying grandmother / caretaker because we're not 100% positive if she is the grandmother. They kind of allude to it. But regardless, this person is telling you everything about your history and everything. And you'd think she would want to at least save her for that, even if she's not blood related. But no, she just like fucking books it out of there and then stands there and watches this old blind lady who is on fire run into the ocean to like douse herself in water and then like comes crawling out. This was actually probably the freakiest scene for me. She's like crawling out and it's just like this burned, charred body that's almost dead trying to crawl out of the water. And then Elizabeth goes and like cradles her and she doesn't get like super sad, but you know, you can tell there's a little bit of regret there, but it's kind of like, yo, you just dipped.
She did.
Like, there was no question. And I just thought that was hilarious. I literally laughed when she just ran out the fucking door.
When Justin was watching that, he said to himself quietly, "That's Nico."
No, not yet, but soon.
Oh, yeah. So what's your favorite moment?
I mean, oh, man. So I actually, you know, I really enjoyed this movie a lot. And I thought that, you know, one of my favorite moments in the movie, for sure, was I enjoyed this scene in the little library. I thought that was really cool. And the reason why I liked it was twofold. First, she opens up like this ancient tome, not written in English. I was like, who the fuck are you lying to right now? You can't read this. There's no way you could read this or read this text. But then, you know, we kind of hear the story of the beast and all this stuff. And I was like, man, that does it for me. Like I was ready. Like I was like, oh man, I can't wait to see this beast. And they had like the picture of the beast. And that kind of links to another thing. Speaking of pictures, there was a dude in a pit and he would draw, like he was prophetic because he could draw things that were like happening that he couldn't see or know.
Because he was blind.
But he'd been gifted like a second sight or something. And then there was a portrait. When the Mother Superior, her blood was used to rub off, I think, a piece of the portrait. And behind the picture was like the beast. And that was such a cool like foreshadow. And I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah, it was a portrait of Elizabeth that he had painted. So then she rubbed off the paint. And underneath that was the picture of the eldritch beast. So that was so like you said, like foreshadowing that holy shit, they're related somehow, or you know, maybe not
that was
blood
fucking
related.
cool.
We didn't quite, at least I didn't catch blood related, but they're totally like.
Well,
somehow
she
related.
used blood to reveal the relation.
Oh, see, I didn't see that, but I didn't make that connection.
I didn't either. I just now thought of that. But no, so speaking of blood, time to shed some. What are some criticisms?
Like I said before, my major criticism was the audio. It was so bad that I think it very, very negatively affected the movie. If you can't tell, I enjoyed the movie, but it really took me out of the movie. And I think that the plot in the first half of the movie wasn't explained very well. Once the pieces started kind of being fit together, I was like, oh, okay, I see that. I get where we're going. But the first half of the movie, I was kind of like, what are we doing? Like, I don't quite understand. So those would be probably my two main criticisms.
Okay. I guess Nico, go ahead.
I did not like this movie, and the parts that got me were just the overall pacing. I thought was just atrocious, a snail's pace. The visuals and the audio were just ultimately super distracting, and I'm kind of sad because like listening to this conversation, like one of the things that I love about this podcast is that oftentimes our opinions will either alter, change, or become more developed. And like listening back to this sounds on paper like a movie that I would be all over. And I'm just really sad that I'm not, because I just really, really am not. But how about you, Justin?
I think that, well, first off, I disagree with almost everything you said. But
and that's your right. And that's your right.
Which I definitely agree that the audio is definitely noteworthy as a negative. It's a shame because I thought the rest of the movie was pretty good. And also, I think a lot of people say they like cerebral horrors, but I think sometimes due to this one's age and maybe just due to some things, it may not aesthetically, I don't even want to use aesthetic really, because I think this is like a book that is maybe written in a language that's a little bit harder to comprehend. But once you understand it, it's fucking dope. And I maintain what I said. I think anyone who gives it really due attention and really focuses it on the movie and really, you know, strives to listen and explain to whatever's going on, like you'll definitely find something to take from this. And I actually sincerely really like this movie. And I thought as well, for having come out in 1993, I thought it was pretty well done, to be honest. And I guess there's a scene, and I'm sorry to go back, in favorite moments, but Elizabeth eviscerates a nun and she literally rips out her fucking guts.
Oh, yeah.
Like she literally puts her hand in and pulls out this woman's intestines and eats them. I was like, yo, there we go. Aside from the audio, I guess another criticism I could potentially have is if I could change one thing, I would have maybe, I don't know. I guess I would have maybe had her meet the grandmother figure maybe a little bit earlier on, like at first, and then, but not with the reveal that she was the daughter of the beast. Maybe just like, oh, you know, like you're from this island, and like, and she knew that, but I guess maybe your mother didn't die when she gave birth to you. Maybe that would have been like the first thing. And we could have built from there, because I do think it wasn't given to you straight away, you know? And I do think that could turn some people off from the movie. I personally enjoyed it though. So now we come to, I guess, a well-respected section here. So what would you do? So I'm going to go ahead and set the stage. You know, you have a very rich family and your father just passed away. And he'd been sending money to this, you know, this convent. Now, for the sake of this argument, no cell phones. This is set back in the day. So they got telephones, but only landlines. So, you know, there's this kind of creepy convent. Now you have a friend, and I guess for this, we got to be chicks because it's a nunnery. So I don't think they really let dudes into the convent. So we all wrote a letter saying, hey, what would you do? So you're on the island and freaky shit starts going down. What do you do?
Is leaving an option?
Not really, because there's no boat.
Unfortunately, they told you the boat would leave next week, and you just saw the boat drive away.
I'd fucking hang out at the docks and just like try and endear myself to some swarthy ship captains. I'm charismatic. I feel like I could do it.
I would probably just like chill out. I would just like hang out, and
He's just vibing.
yeah, and it's like because she wanted to learn about the convent. I would probably do that too, but she really went in. She was like trying to dig up all their secrets and shit. I would just be like, yo, what are you all about? Cool or nah? All right, bet. And that would probably be about it.
All right, so I'm gonna keep it 100 as well. I would mind my own fucking business for 99% of this. I'd have gone down to the Mother Superior, been like, listen, my father's been cutting you all some money. And when she was like, I can see the truth, I'm like, you know what? You got it. I will keep giving you this money so long as I'm alive. And then I was like, I'm gonna go after this, by the way. I'm not coming back. Do you want to read my ancient librarium about the ancient eldritch bomb? No. I'm gonna head down to the mailman / butcher, and we're gonna play some games. We're gonna play some Uno. Back in the day, I guess there was, I don't know what they got. They got
Dominoes.
They got hearts. They got spades, dominoes, whatever it is. I'm playing any of those games. I'm just chilling out, vibing out. I'm not fucking with any of this eldritch conspiracy, because this is a movie where not only does the protagonist undo the evil, but she kind of also causes it.
Yeah,
like
she's part of it.
There was, like without her. Now, Dan, I do have a quick question, a little bone to pick, you might say.
Uh-oh.
So I know there was the prophecy or whatever that the two girls would summon the beast. Mm-hmm. Do you think there a requirement to summon the beast, or do you just think that was just the prophecy?
See, I don't know, and I was kind of thinking about that too. I feel like they are a requirement. I don't know. I don't have a clear answer on that.
Because my thinking was that the abomination basically couldn't properly spawn in our world. So it basically kind of spawned an avatar, so to speak, to kind of convince the father to sleep with her so she could have kids. And then those kids, which are basically the spawn of the eldritch being, they could go on and cause this to happen on behalf of the eldritch being, which again is something we see in a lot of cosmic horror. The Dunwich Horror is one book for a story where that happens, for example. And there's a couple different stories or books you could reference. Nico, do you have any thoughts about that? If they were a requirement, or if maybe that was just the beast's approach?
I mean, I think it makes sense that they would be a requirement, just sort of like taking into account the value of like blood bonds and shit. But honestly, like I always just sort of took it for granted that they were both required. It seems like just part of the deal.
Got you. So in terms of the critical review now, let's go ahead and get to it. So there is no critic review on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got a 56% from the audience. And then on IMDb, we're looking at a 6.1.
Out of 10?
Yep, out of 10.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and break this down, shall we? Dan, what do you think?
I agree with the audience. I enjoyed it. I thought there are some things that could have been executed better, especially the audio. But even then, like I said, like plot and maybe tension a little bit. But I mean, overall, I enjoyed it. I'd probably do like a 65 or 67 maybe.
All right. Nico, where would you put this one?
Man, I would give this a conservative 30. I feel bad because, again, like, after talking with you guys, I feel like if this movie was described to me and, like, pitched to me, I'd be into it. But I just wasn't, man. I'm sorry.
I would give this one a 77. In my opinion, audio, that was kind of bad. But aside from that, I thought it was something that's right up my alley. It's a kind of like a slower, not slow, but a slower burn for sure. I think the story is told intelligently, and I think it's not given straight up. I think it kind of makes you work for it a little bit, which I admire. And I think it's ballsy from a director. And this was, I think, one of his first movies, if not his first movie. Yeah, it was the debut feature from Mariano. So I thought it was really good. But that's my 2 cents. I will say as well, there's a little bit of a discrepancy on when the movie's year of release is. I've seen 1993 and 94. We generally tend to go for the earlier year, if possible. But yeah, I mean, so I guess we have to ask the question. Would you recommend this movie to someone? Dan?
I would, yes.
Nico?
Nope.
I would as well. So this movie does not get a recommend from Don't Open That Door, and additionally does not get the Golden Seal of Approval. So, I mean, that's pretty much it for Dark Waters, also known as Dead Waters, believe it or not.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was another name
I
for
was
it. That it was
in the
released
dark
under.
on that.
So, does anyone have anything else they want to kind of get off their chest before we bring this one to a cease?
No.
Nope.
All right. Well, if you like what you hear, please go ahead and give us a follow. We are on Twitter at DOTD Horror, under Instagram at the same name, and we're on Facebook at Don't Open That Door. So yeah, that's been it from Nico, Dan, and Just. If you do happen to get a creepy call to go to a convent, just watch your back. Make sure you don't summon any eldritch abominations. As always, keep yourself safe and secure. Have a great night, ladies and gents, and please don't open that door. Bye.